Welcome to the Two Regular Guys podcast, a weekly internet radio show hosted by Aaron Montgomery and Terry Combs, with a lively discussion of garment decoration, personalization, and customization. The show features industry guests with valuable information for screen printers, embroiderers, sublimators, heat-applied decorators, direct-to-garment users, and many more. Enjoy the show. Welcome into the show today, everybody. It is the 9th of September, Friday, 2016. My name's Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at aaronmontgomery.info. As always, I'm joined by my very good friend Terry Combs, who's with Equipment Zone. You can also find him over at terrycombs.com. Terry, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Aaron. I'm all packed for heading out to ISS in Orlando. I'm just speaking on Saturdays, so it's one of my typical get in, get out, and be there less than 24 hours kind of deal. So
nice.
But ready to rock, and once we're done with our show.
Awesome. Well, Jay Bussell was tweeting us today on at Two Regular Guys, and was wondering if we're going to be there, and I told him that you would be there, so you have to catch up with him. And then he said we need to have a big reunion in Texas at Fort Worth, because I don't believe he's going to be in Vegas. So we'll get the band back together, so to speak.
I think that's a great idea. I'll have to look him up, and I like to walk into the back of his seminars, and right when he's about to start. And
Nice. All right. Well, this week's show, we're going to have a little bit of fun here. We're going to kind of talk about the pros and cons of several of the different decorating techniques out there, and give you some basics. Really more of a jumping off point here for those of you that are looking to spread your wings a little bit and maybe look at some new things, or maybe you're just a newbie in the industry. This is kind of we're going to have some fun kind of going back and forth with mine's better than yours, so to speak. But, at the end of it, we'll kind of wrap that all into the fact that, all these decorating techniques are important to your business to at least understand. So looking forward to having that chat with you, Terry. But you kind of had a little bit of an announcement last week on the show, and due to some technical difficulties, some of the information was kind of cut out a little bit. Unfortunately. So let's see if we can get the full announcement out of you this week.
Absolutely. It's still timed out perfectly fine. Epson, for the Epson F2000 direct-to-garment printer, they have replaced the tube wash. And anybody that either has an Epson F2000 or they've been looking at them knows that the tube wash is kind of a deterrent, because what happens every 4 weeks, and you have to do it by 6 weeks, is you have to flush white ink through the system. It takes about $120 worth of white ink to flush through the system to keep the print head open, keep the lines open. And after much testing, Epson has found a better way to do that, and it's going to be 10 milliliters of a cleaning solution that at the end of every day, and it'll prompt you before you turn your printer off at the end of the night, to put 10 milliliters of these drops into your capping station, and that will replace the tube wash completely. It's going to be about $80 a year as opposed to about $120 every 4 to 6 weeks. So huge announcement from the folks at Epson. The official announcement, Aaron, was September 1st, but the actual download of the firmware upgrade and the drops that you can purchase, not going to happen until next week. We don't have the exact day, but Epson has told us at Equipment Zone that it'll all be ready to go the week of the 12th. So check out our site or whoever you work with on your Epson F2000, and it's time to save a whole bunch of money on ink. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm imagining that being that they'll be ready with it next week, they'll probably be talking about it quite heavily at SGIA next week. So
exactly
interesting to see how much buzz is around that. Speaking of buzz,
Aaron, I've actually known about this for many months. So every time I would do one of these all-day seminars and the subject of tube wash would come up, I really had to bite my tongue because I wasn't allowed to say anything about it. But I knew on the short horizon we had a solution coming for everyone.
Well, that's good. That is surprising that you were able to keep a secret. That's
I know.
not in your wheelhouse. Like I mentioned last week, you didn't even tell me, so I'm still a little hurt. But this beer right here is helping me get over it. So,
Yeah,
uh,
our two regular guy beer mugs.
yeah, indeed, indeed. All right. Well, speaking of buzz, there was some other news that came across the wire this week that I think is worth sharing. You want to tell the folks what we saw?
Yeah, absolutely. And Aaron, you ran across this, but our good friend of the show, Peter Walsh, and somebody I've known in the industry for many years, left NASDAR. Just I guess I'm going to say a month or so ago. You lose
Yeah.
track of time, but he is now vice president of sales for M&R, and he's got some kids who are still in school in Kansas City, so the family's still in Kansas City. But Peter's going back and forth to Chicago, and congratulations to Peter. We're glad to see you land there at M&R. It's a great company and a great industry veteran, Peter Walsh. So really happy to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. Both sides are winners there. It seems like from the outside looking in. I have not known Peter as long as you have, but every interaction I've had with him in the years that I've known him, just been pleasant and just a super nice guy. So,
Right.
and like you said, M&R is a great company, so I think it's a good fit. Maybe we can grab Peter out in Las Vegas and see if we can hear some updates from him and get it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Exactly. And for our regular listeners, the plan uh, is to try to grab as many folks as we can while you and I are both at SGIA and next week actually, and try to grab some interviews for the show so that we can fit them in over the next few weeks.
Absolutely, yeah. It should be an action-packed, fun show next week, and unfortunately, we're not going to have a chance to get together and do a live broadcast. So we're going to, try to make it a great show still, nonetheless, and just grab a bunch of people and piece that together and get reactions from the show floor, and have that for everybody as quickly as we can after the end of the show. So. Should be great. So anybody that's out there in Vegas that wants to come by and talk to us and tell us what they've got going on, please track one of us down, and we'll have phone in hand ready to record.
Right. I have, Aaron. I also have my digital recording. That recorder will record like 1,200 hours, and it's just like the ones the guys use on ghost hunters. So hopefully, as we're getting recordings, we won't be picking up spirit voices at the same time.
Well, that's good. But, man, we should have had that recorder for some of the evenings that we sat having beers and solving all the world's problems that we couldn't remember the next day.
Exactly right. Which is where this show came from.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. All right. Well, that'll be great. Well, Terry, we got a bunch to cover here, so why don't we dive into the show here in just a moment. Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor, Equipment Zone, who's, I say over and over again because they've been taking care of us forever here, it seems like. Takes good care of us and been supporting this show for a long time. So a quick word from Equipment Zone here. All right. Well, good stuff from them. Thank you very much. And make sure you get on over to equipmentzone.com and check them out and support this show. Tell them you heard it from Aaron and Terry of two regular guys. Easy for me to say. All right, Terry. Well, let me start by for those of you watching the YouTube version here, the video feed. We're going to go ahead and share our slideshow here that we've got ready for you. And Terry, since I am driving here, you're going to have to tap me, let me know when to click on over to the next slide. So we'll see how this goes. You're letting me drive. A little scary for you, but
Well, and Aaron, for everybody who's just listening to the audio version of the show, the slides are just prompts of what we're talking about. So you'll be perfectly fine listening to this on audio as well. But Aaron, you want to kick us off?
Yep, I think we're there. I believe you should be seeing it. Do you see it on your end there, Terry?
I do. I do.
Okay,
I
great.
thought you might want to give a little introduction to.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make sure that you could see it. Perfect. Well, so as we mentioned earlier, we're going to compare and contrast. We're going to talk screen printing, sublimation, direct to garment, and heat transfer. It's kind of a Terry versus Aaron. We got the boxing gloves there. We're ready to go. Um, we've we've conflicted on things before, so we're pretty good at this. We've had the whole ranch and blue cheese. Everybody knows that ranch is the best wing dipping sauce, and
It's blasphemy. It's blasphemy to the chicken wing.
So we're gonna go even further than chicken wings today. So you're gonna tell the world why screen printing and direct-to-garment is so great, and I'm going to counter with the fact that sublimation and heat transfer is awesome. So
Right, well,
I think we dive in here. Terry, you ready?
Let's just jump in. Let's start talking about screen printing and a little overview of the screen printing process. Most of our listeners are familiar with all the different processes, but so we'll just kind of touch on it a little bit here. When we do this presentation at SGIA next week, a lot of the folks who'll be sitting in the class will be newbies to the industry, so we'll probably get into a little more detail. But the bottom line is this: with screen printing, what we're going to do is we're going to create artwork, and we're either going to create the artwork ourselves, we're going to have our customer create it, or some combination. And with all these different techniques, the first thing we're going to discover if we're just getting new into the industry is the artwork we get from our customers is really, really going to be bad. So that's going to be the tripping point on any of this. But once we create the artwork, in screen printing, I have to have a different film positive for every one of the colors in the design. So if I'm doing an American flag on a navy t-shirt, I'm going to need a white underbase, I'm going to need red, I'm going to need blue, and I'm going to need to highlight white. So I'm going to need 4 screens or 4 films output. So I'm going to output those films more than likely on an Epson 1430 it's a 18 by 20 image area film positive. And I'm sorry, not 18 by 20, 13 by 18.
13 by 18. You're getting ahead of yourself, Terry.
I'm already thinking ahead to direct-to-garment printing. But anyway, I'm going to output those films.
Oh, sorry. All right.
Well, there's certainly some options today with direct-to-screen, and which is actually inkjetting the image directly onto a screen with emulsion on it, as opposed to outputting a film positive. But most of the new printers are going to be outputting film positives. I'm going to coat my screen with a photosensitive emulsion. I'm going to put the film positive on the screen. I'm going to expose it to UV light, and every place that the light touches hardens the emulsion. Every place it doesn't touch, where my image is, it's going to stay soft. I'm going to go to my sink. I'm going to rinse that out, and every place where the image was is going to wash out. So the emulsion will wash away there, and that's where the ink will come through the screen. I'm going to set that screen up on my press. It could be a tabletop press I built myself, freestanding machine on my floor. It could be an automatic press. The thing about screen printing is screen printing is screen printing is screen printing. I can do it on a homemade machine. I can do it on an automatic press. As long as you do it properly, the end result's going to be the same. So are some techniques more efficient than others? Absolutely. But there are lots of ways that we can attack the problem. So once I have the screen on my press, that image up with the screen against my platen. My platen is where my shirt goes. Once I have it squared up on the platen, then I'm going to load my shirt. Now, before I load the shirt, I'm going to spray a photosensitive. I'm going to spray a low tack adhesive onto the platen. That's just going to hold that shirt in place, especially for a multicolor print. If I'm doing that American flag, by the way, I have to take each one of those screens, set it up on the press, and line one up to the other. I've got some techniques for doing that you can find on my website, where you can set up a press in about 5 minutes. And who struggled for hours trying to get that 4-color print set up is probably going right now to terrycombs.com. But once I have my shirt on my platen, now my art is squared with the platen. As long as my shirt is loaded square, then the image is going to hit just where it needs to hit. I'm going to load that screen with probably plastisol ink. Now, there are certainly water-based inks and other types of inks available, Most of the shirts that you see today, ink. A plastisol ink is a PVC-based ink. Now, a lot of times folk will see a really heavy print and say, well, that must be plastisol. And then they'll see a little thin print and say, well, no, that must be water-based or something else. You can thin down plastisol ink or print through a higher mesh and get that same thin feel to it. So more often than not, what you're seeing on the shirt is plastisol ink. So once I print that shirt, whether it's one color or 4 colors or 6 colors, once I print all the inks on there, I'm going to cure that ink. I need to get that ink film up to 320 degrees. Once I reach that temperature, it's cured and should last there forever. There are lots of other things in the process, like testing for proper cure, allowing for humidity in your shop, things like that. But in a nutshell, that's the process. Generally, when I cure that shirt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on a conveyor dryer belt. It's going to go down the belt, and when it comes out the other end, it's all ready to go. Aaron, why don't you flip to the next screen for us? So this screen is what can I print? Screen printing opportunities are really unlimited. I can print 100% cotton. I can print blends, 50/50s. I can print polys. I can print tri-blends. I can print really on a lot of things. Once I have a screen printing press and all the equipment, the screens, the squeegees, the emulsions, I could print on glass. I could print on plastic. I could print on a lot of things as long as I use the proper inks for the process. Aaron, how about going to the next screen? So what can I not print? Really, your limitations are based on the amount of time it takes to set up the press and tear down the press. And the print time is really negligible. Screen printing, I could print a one color print on a manual press. I could print about 100 shirts an hour. So that's really not the issue we need to work with. The limitation is the amount to set up and tear down. That's why when somebody walks into a screen printing shop and says, hey, I want this 6 color print and I need 4 shirts, that screen printer is going to say, no, I'm not going to screen print that job. Charge you enough money for the time involved in burning those screens and setting up the screens and preparing and tearing down the job at the end. So it's not so much what I can't print, it's what I can't print because it's not feasible to do a really short run, especially multicolor job. And of course, the other issue is expertise, because there is a learning curve to screen printing. In my experience, for someone to become what I would call a very proficient screen printer, you're looking at probably 3 years in the trenches to become a really good printer. Now, that isn't to say that you can't be doing 1 and 2 and 3 color work, because in reality, days you can do 1 and 2 and 3 color work, and that's the bread and butter, by the way, of screen printing. You know, and Aaron, you'll probably laugh, but it's Jim's towing service on the front and the phone number on the back. That's where we make our money. Now, on our walls, only because that is the 728,000th time I've used that example. But anyway, you know, what you see on the wall of screen printing shop is that 6 color simulated process on a black t-shirt. Where they make their money is printing that order for you for the local Kiwanis Club picnic. So Aaron, let's jump to the next screen. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of screen printing? One of the advantages is if you have a 2-car garage, you have the potential of being a screen printer. It's a very easy business to get into. Wide variety of substrates to print on, just about any kind of fabric you can screen print. Very forgiving ink systems, very easy to work with. Plastisol ink will not dry on the screen. I could print till 5 o'clock on Friday. I could take a week off and come back and start printing again that Monday a week in the future. Now, let's all just be honest with each other. Everybody who's already in their own business just laughed when I said take a week off, because, well, that just isn't going to happen. But the disadvantage of screen printing is short runs, just like I was saying. Short runs are not economical in screen printing. So Aaron, let's jump to the next screen. So what do I need to get started? If you don't already have a manual screen printing press, I'm going to recommend you buy a 6-color press. That doesn't mean that you're going to be doing 6-color jobs, but you have the potential of printing just about anything. You could print a photographic image on a black t-shirt with a 6-color press. So if you haven't bought anything yet, buy 6-color. You're going to have a conveyor dryer, which means I lay the shirt on the dryer belt, it comes out the other end, and it's ready to go. That dryer, the size of the dryer is going to be limited by your budget and how much space you have. But you want to have a dryer that can keep up with your capacity to print. So as I was saying, I can do a 1-color print. I can do 100 pieces an hour. If my dryer is pretty small and it will only take 48 shirts an hour, well, that dryer is dictating how much money I'm going to be able to make and how much product I can get out the door. So make sure that you have a dryer that can keep up with your capacity. You're going to have a flash cure unit. A flash cure unit is the only time you ever use this is when I am printing a white underbase. I'm going to flash it, then I'm going to come back and print my colors on top, wet on wet. So you do need a flash cure unit. You need some method to expose your screen, some exposure unit. You can do that anywhere from a $10,000 exposure unit all the way back to exposing your screens in the sun. It's God's exposure unit. It's UV light. So no faster way to expose a screen than in the sun. And then, of course, you need your screens and inks and supplies. Aaron, let's jump to the last screen here. So how much will I need to spend? It's fairly inexpensive to get into the screen printing business. You're looking at, I can have a real production shop. And what does the real production shop mean? That means that I can make money doing this. I can actually start a production shop for about $15,000. So it's, as I said, pretty inexpensive business to get into. And that's why I think that anybody who's listening now really could just turn off their computers, because that's really everything you need to know. Unless, Aaron, you want to jump into your next slide.
Well, we do have some time, so let's go ahead and talk about a process that is really a money-making process, and is probably really where you should be focusing your efforts. And this is a sublimation process. It's a heat transfer process, but a little bit different. As you can tell from the slides there, I'm more of a put it down on paper, here's a paragraph kind of person, compared to Terry, who's going to tell you a great story. So, but my overview of
we're not gonna read along, are we?
No, we're not going to read along, because my overview of the sublimation process that those of you watching on the video will see, and that you can catch later on, is just that. It kind of tells all about what sublimation is in more technical terms. But let me give you the basic overview so we're not reading along word for word here. So sublimation is a process where you're taking a special ink, a sublimation ink, you are printing it onto a paper, and most of the time you're printing it onto a paper, and then you're going to take that paper, and with heat and pressure, and those are the two important pieces that you need in sublimation, the appropriate heat and the appropriate even pressure, you'll take that heat and pressure, and that ink is actually going to jump from that paper on over to the substrate that you're putting it on, whether that's a garment or whatnot. Now, with this process, we do need to be transferring over to a polyester product of some sort, because unlike all the other techniques that we're talking about here today, this process is actually where the ink is becoming part of the polyester. So there's nothing sitting on top. You can't feel it. There's no curing or anything like that. The ink actually becomes a gas because of the heat. That gas transfers over to the opened up polyester cells on the garment or mug or cell phone case or whatever the case may be there. And then as that comes off the heat press, those polyester pores close up with the ink trapped inside of it, and it is now permanent. Those colors are going to be there as long as the shirt is there. And so the ink is really the magic of this. The paper is not much more than a carrier. It's got a little releasing agent to it, so you do need to have a sublimation paper, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But so some of the pieces and parts to this is that you get this super high resolution photorealistic image in multiples of colors without any color separations or anything like that. So that is sublimation in a nutshell. Let's move on. So what can I print? It works best with 100% polys. That's not to say that you can't print and press onto some blends. Basically, the way that it works is the ink is only going to stick to the polyester part of a blended shirt. So if you have a 50-50 shirt, 50% of the ink is going to stay, 50% of the ink is going to not transfer, and that cotton portion is not going to have any ink on it because it's not going to adhere there. So it's going to give you a little bit of a washed out, faded look when you do something like that. Certainly a nice look, and I've seen people make some really great shirts with blends. But the more polyester content, the more bright and vivid your image is going to be. The next piece is, when people start thinking about sublimation, they're thinking about things like hard surface items as well. Let's think mugs. Let's think award plaques, cell phone cases, luggage tags, water bottles, aluminum water bottles, jewelry. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The thing with that is these pieces do have to have a polymer coating on them. So you can't just run out to your local Walmart, Target, wherever, and grab a mug and then hope it's going to transfer. You do have to buy a sublimation ready product. And there are different grades to those kinds of products as well. So make sure that you're checking with your suppliers on the grade. With mugs, there are dishwasher and microwave safe mugs, and there's some that are not dishwasher and microwave safe. So that polymer coating has a different grade to it. So make sure that you're checking in on that. And then the last piece is, I always get this question from folks when they're asking me about sublimation. They say, hey, I've got this special widget here that I want to be able to sublimate onto it. Can I use a spray or just buy a polymer coating and coat it on there? And my answer to that is typically no. And here's the reason why. That's not to say that you can't make it work. There's a product out there called dye press that's been around for a while that people have had success with. I've even heard of people going to the paint store and buying stuff and spraying it on and getting it to work. But at the end of the day, if you're in this as a business, you're never going to be able to make that work in a profitable way. What happens if you don't get that coating on there perfectly even? You're going to get transitions of your colors from one side to the next, or wherever you've got more coating, you're going to get deeper colors, and it's using something like that is more of an art form. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to find 99% of everything that you'd want to sublimate onto it at one of the distributors.
Aaron, can I ask you a real quick question?
Sure.
When you do the spray, would that be the same also, that it might look really good, but it might not wash very well? Because like our two regular guys coffee mugs, I throw those in the dishwasher. They look great every time they come out. But I've gotten gift coffee mugs before that are sublimated, but you can't put them in the dishwasher because they fade more and more every time you put them in there. Would that be the same concept?
A little bit of the same, but a lot of times those ones that fade are just they've maybe purchased them from a sublimation distributor, but it's just a lower grade of polymer, and what's happening is the dishwasher, because of the heat and whatnot, it's actually washing off the polymer. You're digging right down into it. So, but that same thing's going to happen with the spray. It's just not the same as something that's been coated through the coating processes that they have. It's actually quite intriguing, quite an interesting process. I had the fortune of heading over to China one time to see some of the factories at work, and it's pretty amazing what they do with it. And again, they create these things by the bazillions, and so you're never going to be able to make the kind of money that you can make just buying something that's ready to go. So that's the long story of my answer of no, you can't use a spray. If you have to, you have to, and like I said, I'm not bagging on that, and people have made it work. I just don't think you're going to make money long term doing it that way. So jumping off of the soapbox, and here's for those of you watching the slideshow, some of the pictures of some of those things that I mentioned that are coded for creating. You've got, tiles and the list goes on and on. tens of thousands of products that you could probably find. In fact, out on the show floor at SJA, you're probably going to see several companies from Asia and then local distributors where things that you just can't even imagine that people are sublimating on too. So kind of cool stuff. So check that out. All right, so what can I not print? 100% cotton is the first thing. So when somebody comes and says, well, can I sublimate onto cotton? I've heard that there's a sublimation system for cotton. I'm going to tell you that that is not true. There are systems out there that claim to be sublimation type onto cotton, but at the end of the day, it's not sublimation where you're actually dyeing the cotton. All it is a transfer that's sticking on top. So technically you can use your sublimation inks. There's some papers and things out there right now that are really doing well, and I think they're making some strides there. But at the end of the day, it's not true sublimation. We're not dyeing the cotton. We're just sticking a sticker over the top of it. Like I said, the stickers are getting better, and they're becoming more durable and things like that. But you're still, you probably have some other ways that you could go in that arena without trying to do sublimation on cotton. So that's one thing you can't print. The other thing that we can't print, and I'm going to get beaten up over this later on, I'm sure, but there's no white ink in my system here, in my sublimation system. So everything that you see out there, even the all over kind of decorated shirts that look like they're a black shirt that's been sublimated, or maybe one of those cycling jerseys that says, hey, but that's a green cycling jersey. No, that was actually white fabric, and then they dyed the whole entire surface. So everything starts out as a white fabric or substrate, and then you decorate over the top. That's not to say you can't take some lighter polys and black letters onto a red shirt looks really good and it's nice and soft. There are some things to do there, but those inks are translucent, so any change to the color of your surface is going to change the color of the inks going on top of it. So no dark garments there, but again, why not just make the whole thing the way you want it? And you don't have to have just a boring black t-shirt. You can have a cool pattern in the background and do an all over garment. So there you go. There are some patch materials and things like that we talked about that are alternatives out there, sublimating onto like a fleece but again, it's not what I would consider true sublimation. So advantages, again, as you can tell from the slides, if you're watching along, I like to put a lot of words out there where Terry's more direct and to the point. But the advantages here, very quick setup. This is all digital. So there is no separations. There is nothing that you have to do on the front end other than get the picture into a computer and push print. So, technically everything I print could be different. So I could personalize stuff. So I could print 100 different mouse pads, and each one of them has somebody's different name or monogram on them. And each one of them can be printed out differently and processed just like I would process 100 of the same mouse pads. So very quick setup. Unlimited colors. So you do have to think about this differently when you're pricing this product. You're going to, not worry about whether this is a 1-color job or a 2-color job or a 6-color job or a 12-color job. Every job is full color, so you're using CMYK inks, which will give you 16 million different color combinations. So not quite unlimited, but plenty. Low production costs, meaning the fact that there are not a lot of setup, and so you can get these things produced quickly and easily without a lot of time and effort and production costs and headaches and things like that. So, in the long run, your inks are not terribly expensive. This is an ideal solution for short run productions. Again, that person that wants to walk in and wants to picture grandma on a shirt, this is perfect for that because you can just print and go. And then lastly, on the advantage side, it is ideal for photo reproductions. As people have gone away from having prints of their photos. We all take our photo on our iPhone now, and I don't need that 4x6 printed photo out there. So there were hundreds of photo labs out there that all of a sudden their business dried up, and those that still survive today, most of those people are sublimating. They're taking aluminum panels and they're putting those images on different aluminum panels, making these beautiful full color images that last and are very durable. So ideal for that. Disadvantages, not too many. We'll just buzz right through those. But no,
Taking notes. Go ahead.
yeah. The limitations of the products, like we talked about, you are focused on polyester. When I first got into sublimation, before I got into sublimation, I was Mr. Cotton. I hated polyester because I hadn't really seen what polyester is nowadays. But think Under Armour, think all those things. Those are all polyester. So you just got to focus on the polyester, but that is a limitation. You're not going to be doing cotton or denims or things like that. It's not ideal for the low cost. If I'm trying to compete with a screen printer on a 500 shirt or 1,000 shirt run, it's just not going to happen. The ink costs and everything's kind of the same. So making one versus making 100, you don't gain that many efficiencies there. So if you're trying to be the cheapest guy on the block, this is probably not for you. You want to be the most value on the block for this kind of a process. And then the last disadvantage here, you do have some budget limitations, the equipment, and we'll talk about this at the end of this part here. But the equipment, starting off, you can get into it very cheaply, but once you want to get up into maybe doing some all over garments and stuff like that, you're looking at spending $10,000, $15,000 on a heat press. So to scale this up into real big output, there is some cost involved in that. So that limits some folks. All right, and what I need to get, a little bit less complicated than screen printing. I need a computer and preferably some graphics software. Nowadays, a lot of the ink systems and some of the online design tools and things like that are certainly capable of making what you need. You're really just printing to a printer with a print driver, so you don't necessarily need a graphics software. But because we are dealing with high-end photorealistic items, having Adobe Photoshop or Corel Photo Paint is really ideal to really manipulate these things and make them pop and shine for you. So like I said, there are some software packages out there where you can just design right inside of them. So it's not a necessary for 100%, but it certainly is going to make you a lot better sublimator. Then you're going to need a printer and ink system. The one that's shown there is the Sublimation SG400 from Sawgrass. So that's the low end kind of base model, 8.5 by 11 size. I'll give it away, but you get in it for about $500, $600, something around that price range for the printers and the ink. And then finally, as I talked about early on, you're going to need a heat press here because this does require heat and pressure. And I don't know if you guys recalled, but I did make a point of saying that I do need even pressure. So if I've got a $300 heat press and I can't figure out why I keep ruining every third item because one side looks a little duller than the other side, that's probably because you don't get good even straight down pressure. And so you get what you pay for here. Get yourself a quality heat press that is going to not destroy product for you. If you're doing, for example, plaques and awards, some of those things can cost $5, $6 for the blank alone, and you don't want to be throwing away too many of those. So a swing away press is probably the best. I've sublimated for years and used a clamshell and have made it work, but you do have to get it dialed in a little bit more than where a swing away press, where that pressure is coming straight down, is a little more forgiving, especially for folks starting out. So a good swing away press is ideal for this. So. And to wrap it up, how much do I need to spend? Well, like I said, you've got a bit of a wide range of a budget here, but low end to get started in this here, you can budget for maybe $1,000 at the very minimum. Let's say $1,500 to be a full-fledged shop. So you're going to spend $1,000 on a decent heat press. You're going to have some, so let's say 2,000 really. So you're going to say you've got $1,000 on a decent heat press. You're going to have a computer and your graphics software. So maybe you're going to spend $500 on that. And then you're going to spend about, like I said, about $500, $600 on the printer and ink system. So you got everything there, or you can get on into the large format stuff where that stuff's listed at 42 inches and above, you're going to have about $8,000 for a printer. The heat press that you're going to need to go along with that's probably going to be like a 44 by 64 inch heat press. You're probably looking at about $15,000 to $20,000 for that. You still got your computer and graphics and software and stuff like that. So, on up to the $25,000, $30,000 range. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a range, but if you just really want to get in on the ground floor, have $1,500, $2,000 set aside. If you're ready to go full-fledged into this, make sure that you've got a finance company or a way to come up with about $30,000. So there's Sublimation. I think we've got it. We can be done, right, Terry?
Oh, Aaron, I think I do possibly have a better idea. Not that, all that was really interesting, what you just told us, but how many colors did you say? I didn't hear that part.
16 million.
16 million. Oh. See, because direct-to-garment is 16 million and one. So here's the deal with direct-to-garment printing. Direct-to-garment printing is printing directly onto cotton as opposed to polyester. With direct-to-garment printing, you're in general preparing your artwork the same way you would as with sublimation. Now, direct-to-garment printer is a photographic reproduction type machine as well. So originally, Aaron and I started out selling T-Jets, and back that one of the very first machines on the market, and the very first machines only printed on white shirts. Much like sublimation, it was a CMYK only, and so we do white shirts. If we printed on a yellow shirt and we printed a blue ball, it would be green, because CMYK inks are translucent inks, transparent inks. So with direct-to-garment printing, you're going to prepare your artwork the same way. A photograph, whatever you want to print on the shirt, once it's on the computer screen the way you want it to appear on the shirt, then you're going to import that file to the RIP or print driver software that comes with every direct-to-garment printer. What you're going to see on your screen is a rectangle, and that rectangle is the shirt holder where you're putting your shirt on the machine. So the image is going to appear in that software on that rectangle. You're going to move it around, position it so that it falls maybe an inch down, or it's centered, or wherever you want it to be, a left chest. And if it's going on a light shirt, you hit the print button, and the shirt the ink actually prints directly onto the shirt. The complication comes when you're going onto dark. That's 16 million and one. That one being white ink. A couple of things you have to deal with there. One is anytime you print with white ink, you must spray a pre-treated solution onto the shirt first, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But you must pre-treat the shirt first. In your software that comes with the printer, either a RIP or print driver, there's going to be an option there to create a white underbase. So it's a button click, and the software will create that white underbase. As a screen printer, I'm stacking the colors, and I'm in there manually spending time creating that white underbase film. With direct-to-garment printing, it is literally a button click. A lot of, and it's going to vary from software to software, but in general, you're going to have a light, a medium, or a heavy underbase that you select. With some third-party advanced softwares, you can go in and really dial those underbases in. This looks good with 80% underbase, and I'm going to try it with 78% underbase, that sort of thing. But once I pre-treated the shirt, I tell the printer, yes, create a white underbase. Then it knows it's going to print white first, and then it's going to come back and print color on top. At the end of that process, all direct-to-garment printers use a water-based ink system, which means eventually that ink would air dry. But for washability, like with all the other processes that we're talking about here, you need to heat set that ink. What you're going to do generally is you're going to put it under a heat press. And
you're not actually heat setting sublimation, Terry, just FYI.
But you are using heat.
I am using heat to get it from point A to point B, but I don't have to cure it. It's becoming part of it because it's permanent, unlike the rest of these things. Anyway, sorry.
Hey, no problem.
I digress.
No problem at all. Hey, jump in there with and keep fighting for your guy, but I think he's going down. He looks like right. he looks a little dazed. He looks like he's staggering a little bit. All right, Aaron, let's jump to the next slide. Okay, so what can I print? 100% ring spun cotton is your best friend with direct to garment printing. Just the opposite of sublimation, where you need 100% poly. 100% ring spun cotton is your best friend. Can I print blends? I can. I want to have a high cotton content blend though. Once I get down to a 50-50, 50% cotton, 50% poly, I'm not going to have as bright an image and I'm not going to have as good of washability. So people will say, but you can't find good 100% cotton hoodies. And that's correct. Usually there's some blend, but you can find them in 90-10, 90% cotton, or 80-20, 80% cotton. And those are going to print just fine. A lot of other things you can print on as well. Denim, which is also cotton. I've seen some gorgeous prints on denim jackets. I remember, Aaron, you and I worked in a booth one time, and somebody wore their denim jacket into their booth and said, "Well, I bet you couldn't print on this." And we're like, "Yeah, we sure could." And she took off her denim jacket, and we put a really cool image on the back for her. And you can print on canvas, you can print on golf towels, and things like that. Aaron, jump to the next slide for me.
All right, I'm bringing my denim jacket with me at SGA then, so you can print on it for me.
Okay. First of all, I want to see you in that denim jacket, and I'm hoping you're wearing that with jeans and a denim shirt. So
Absolutely, absolutely, and it will have some rhinestones on it as well, but that's totally different. Anyways,
what's a denim jacket without a little bling?
yeah, yeah. So,
And an American flag on the back.
yeah, yeah. So Terry, you tell us that we need ring spun cotton, but are there particular shirts that are better than others?
Absolutely, Aaron, and that's a tripping point really for a lot of folks, because I'll jump back to screen printing. You could basically print on just about anything with screen printing and get a really good quality print. With direct to garment printing, you need ring spun cotton, and you really need a really good tight weave. The shirts that I'm going to screen print with, because I can, those shirts are on sale, I'll take them and print on them and get a great print. That's not going to happen with direct to garment printing. There are specific shirts that have really good tight weave that are going to give you a better quality print. And people will call me up and say, well, I'm printing on XYZ brand shirt and I just can't get a bright print like you guys do with the trade shows. And I have to say, no amount of changing pressure, no amount of changing the amount of pre-treat, no amount of any variable here is going to give you that bright image, because you really need to have the right shirts to print on. The plus for all of us in direct to garment printing is this industry has gotten so huge that every manufacturer is coming out with their version of a direct to garment shirt. And another plus for us is, the assumption is, well, gosh, so they charge twice as much, right? They're really the same price as all the other shirts that you buy. So, you're still looking at $250 for a cotton t-shirt that you're printing on. We're going to have on our website a list of about 10 shirts that have been tested over at Equipment Zone, and shirts that their techs recommend to people. And we're always updating that list. But to give you a couple examples, the Kia MC180, the Cotton Heritage shirts are great. The 1082 is excellent. American Apparel 2001, Next Level 3600, and the list goes on. Hanes Nano. The word on the street is Gildan is coming out with their own version of a direct to garment shirt. Because let's be honest, Gildan, huge company, great product. Every screen printer on the planet prints their shirts. They just don't print very well with direct to garment printing, but they also will have a shirt. I don't know if it'll be at SGIO, but I know that it's been out in the field being tested, and it's probably a big secret. So, shh, everybody.
Yeah.
Aaron, let's jump to the screen. So what can I not print? I cannot print, and let me just say this to everybody out there. No, I cannot print on a phone case, because, and I say that way because I get asked nearly every day. And I say, okay, call my friend Aaron, who's going to tell you about sublimation, because that's how phone cases are printed. So could I make it work? I could probably figure out a way, and with pre-treats and this and that. Should I? Absolutely not, because somebody who's doing sublimation can do a phone case while I'm standing here telling this story. So all these different techniques have their own niche in the marketplace. So
Oh,
printing.
sorry, Terry. I just made another $20 printing that phone case while you're talking. Sorry.
Is it a Walking Dead one like I'm holding in my hand?
No, it's a two regular guys one, and they're flying off the shelves. So.
Off the shelves. Well, another thing I want to point out too is, Aaron, you had mentioned Under Armour. Performance wear does not work well with direct garment printing. First reason is their tri-blends. They're man-made fabrics. The wicking fabrics are not cotton; they're man-made. So the first no-no for direct garment printing. The second is in screen printing. When you print on performance wear, most all performance wear, you have to use special low cure inks because you can't get those fabrics up to curing temperature before they start to melt. It's the same with direct-to-garment printing. Direct-to-garment printing, you need to cure at 330 degrees Fahrenheit. If you get a performance wear garment up to 330 degrees, it's going to melt. So a big disappointment for folks, because that's a huge part of the industry right now. But as of right now, today, not an option. Now, is there testing happening? And have I seen performance wear printed with a direct-to-garment printed that looked awesome? Yes, but it's very select garments, and it's really in its infancy. So don't count on that if you're looking at doing direct-to-garment. Uniforms like baseball uniforms, things like that. Again, you're looking at man-made fabric, so not going to be an option for you. Aaron, jump to the next slide for me. So advantages and disadvantages. Advantage, instant gratification. Somebody walks in and says, hey, here are my 5 grandkids under the Christmas tree, and I'd really like this on a pink T-shirt. Can you do it for me? And absolutely, while you're standing there waiting, I can do it for you. Full color images while you wait. That's the big advantage. Disadvantage, long runs. I had someone call me up, Aaron. I may have told you this story before. They said, how many direct-to-garment printers, and yes, it got my attention immediately. How many direct-to-garment printers will it take for me to do 5,000 shirts a month? And of course, my first question was, do you mean 5,000 different images? No, it's the same print. I have the same run I do every month, 5,000 shirts. And I said, well, you don't need any direct-to-garment printers because you need to screen print those. Somebody could print those on an automatic press and be done by lunch. With a direct-to-garment printer, 5,000 images, I'd still be printing them next month when the next order came in. So direct-to-garment printing is for short runs, not for long runs. Limited substrates, 100% cotton, and within 100% cotton, you really need the right garments to get the best print, and pre-treating. And that's a big concern for folks, that there's another step in the process. Right now, today, garments still need to be pre-treated. Aaron, let's jump to the next screen.
All right. Well, my sublimation guy, he's back. He's standing. He's proud and tall because he just heard that word, pre-treating, the dirty word. All right.
Well, so what do I need to get started? Of course, you need a computer. All direct-to-garment printers are PC compatible. There's one direct-to-garment printer that's PC and Mac compatible. I need a printer, of course, a direct-to-garment printer. I need some method to pre-treat shirts. Our sponsor, Equipment Zone, and where I spend my days, we manufacture a pre-treat machine. There are other pre-treat machines on the market. Most people who enter the market today purchase an automatic pre-treat machine. Is there any other way to do it? Yes, you could use a Wagner handheld power sprayer. They're about $72 on Amazon. It's a little messy, takes some practice. Will it work? Absolutely. Is it better to use the pre-treat machine? It is, because you're going to have consistency from print to print, from shirt to shirt. Lots of folks out there doing paint rollers and all kinds of things. None of those are professional pre-treat methods. You have 2 choices: an automatic pre-treat machine, a Wagner handheld power sprayer. The last thing is a heat press. And Aaron, you mentioned using a swing away, which is ideal for sublimation. With direct-to-garment printing, unless you're doing things like bling and other applications, a clamshell is really better for direct-to-garment printing. And the reason being is you can have auto release on that heat press. which means I'm going to put the shirt on there, I'm going to heat press it, I'm going to walk away, I'm going to do something else, and it'll pop up when it's done. I will jump on Aaron's heat press soapbox as well. Buy a good quality heat press. Don't cut corners on a heat press. If you call me up and say, the left-hand side of all my shirts, about an inch wide, the ink washes out every time, so there's something wrong with your ink. Really? Well, tell me a little bit about your heat press. What brand is it? It's orange. Yeah. Okay. Well, here's what you need to do with that orange heat press that has no label on it. Take it to the dumpster and get a good quality heat press. Here, let's jump to the next screen. So how much will I need to spend? If you go the professional route, which is a printer, a pre-treat machine, a heat press, you're looking at $20,000 to $22,000. Can you spend less? You could spend a little bit less. Can you spend more? Sure, there are direct-to-garment printers on the market that are $120,000. But day in and day out, the average people spend is about $20,000 to $22,000 on a package. That does not include your computer, but most of us who are in the business already have a computer they're working with. So, Aaron, tell me how you could top that. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. If it's me, I'm probably signing off now, but go ahead and tell us what else you have.
Well, did all right. I definitely took a few lumps there in the sublimation piece, but like I said, that naughty word pretreatment reared its head. Fortunately, you worked your way out of that with that automatic pretreatment machine. I think the proliferation of those into the marketplace has changed the game a little bit. So I have to bring my A game. So to bring my A game here, I'm going to close this up here with heat transfers. So heat transfers is a bit more of an all-encompassing part of this talk, and heat transfers to me are things like CAD cut vinyl transfers, inkjet transfers, just standard off the shelf $100 Epson kind of inkjet transfers. People are using those and making money with them. A solvent print and cut type transfer, so you're actually printing with a special solvent printer with solvent inks directly onto a vinyl, and then cutting those vinyl transfers out and putting those on garments. And then laser transfers have definitely been something that have been exploding in the marketplace, especially with the release over the last 4 or 5 years of printers that actually have white toners in them as well. So kind of the entry level into direct to garment, potentially something like that. So those are the 4 things I want to talk about in this section. There are some other things with heat transfer that people would consider in the heat transfer realm. Embroidery applique being one, rhinestones being another, and then maybe some foils and things like that. A little bit more on the outskirts of it, and happy to talk with folks about those things exterior to this, but just going to stay on the main ones here. So an overview of it, though, is basically we're going to take some sort of a decoration item, whether that's a vinyl, an inkjet transfer, laser transfer, solvent, whatever the case may be. We're going to take that, we're going to prepare it in such a way that it's ready to be transferred using a heat press. Like sublimation, we're going to need heat. We're going to need a little bit of pressure to get it off of the carrier piece. So there are some items out there that you can use a home iron with and make it work. But again, at the end of the day, investing $1,000 in a heat press it means that you're going to be in business. If you can't do that, then you probably have a hobby, and you just need to come have beers with us after this, and then have somebody else make your stuff for you. But so that's the basic process. That we're going to take whatever that piece is, and we're going to get it prepared to go onto the garment, and then we're going to transfer it onto the garment, and using a heat process. So it's fairly easy. It can be. It can be a godsend because I can get on to all sorts of different things. I can get real crazy, and our costs are fairly low for a lot of this stuff. So a standard inkjet transfer, I've got 50 cents to $1 in it, and I've got a garment, maybe a nice little promotional piece that they're only going to wash a couple times, and that's fine, and people are happy with that. So great opportunities here. That's the basic general overview, but let's dive into it a little bit more. So, we're going to be able to print just about anything, as I mentioned. I can't think of too many things that I can't get on to, as long as it can take just a little bit of heat. Unlike the sublimation process, where I'm getting into that 400-degree range, some of these kinds of transfers I can transfer as low as in the 200s. So even lower than like a screen print ink curing. So you get on to just about anything. One thing that really stands out to me on this process is it does also allow for special effects. There's glitter vinyls, there's different foils and things like that mirrored looks, and so you do get some kind of special effects that you can do with this process. It also allows you to have a kind of some depth of image. There's some product out there called Brick that is 100 microns thick, and so it's that big kind of stick up, you can touch and feel it kind of thing. There are different vinyls that have patterns and things inlaid into them, so you kind of get some depth of image with this stuff. So that's some of the things that I can print. The items that I can't print is what I just mentioned, things that just won't take any heat, so I can't print onto a balloon or something along those lines, some really fine silks or things like that. But beyond that, that's really the only limitation I'm going to have. As long as I can get it into a heat press or under an iron for a very short amount of time, I'm going to be able to do well with a heat transfer. So the advantages of heat transfers and disadvantages of heat transfers, again, like sublimation, this is all digital. So you've got very limited setup, maybe a little bit more setup than like sublimation process and direct to garment process. I'll give you some kudos there, Terry. But so you've got fast turnarounds. So somebody walks into, maybe you got a mall kiosk and somebody walks in and says, "Hey, I want to put a name on the back of this shirt." Okay, boom, let's cut some vinyl and away we go, or we print out a transfer and away we go. So very fast turnaround time, and the setup's typically very short and sweet too. Going back to throwing some barbs at screen printing, I don't have any color separations. I don't have any screens I've got to set up and get aligned. I don't have that much time to get this going. It can be a lot more instantaneous. So those are some of the advantages of it. Disadvantages of it is that a lot of times there can be multiple steps involved with this. So if you're doing vinyl and it's a couple color job, you've got to lay 3 different pieces of vinyl on and press 3 different times. So it can be multiple steps and different things involved to kind of give you that depth of color. And then here's the real big kicker that a lot of people cringe at when they hear the word, but it's weeding. Anybody that's done any vinyl before knows what I'm talking about, but weeding is the process of taking that vinyl and getting rid of the excess parts that I don't want going onto my garment. And now there are automatic weeding machines out there. Not in the States. I have not seen it yet, but one time in Europe I saw a machine that they made more for sign vinyl kind of stuff, but could be used with fabric heat transfer vinyls as well, where it automatically weeded. It was only I think about $300,000, so small price to pay. But no, so you've got the weeding, and then really
this weeding. I know it's I know, like, when people weed their garden, they just truly hate doing that. This weeding's probably not like that, right?
Sure. Unfortunately, it is, especially for folks like myself that don't have a lot of patience. If you get a good vinyl that has some sticky backing to it, the weeding process is a lot easier. And so there are certain ways that you can make this go a lot better for you. One of my tips that I always give folks, that it was one of the best things I ever learned as I do vinyl, is if you add a little heat to it. I actually like to weed right on top of my heat press pad after it just came off of there, because it's nice and warm. And what that does is it takes those cuts in the vinyl, and when that vinyl gets a little bit of heat, it actually contracts a little bit. So it opens up those cuts, and you can tear stuff off a lot easier and weed a lot easier. So that's the disadvantage. One other quick disadvantage is that some of these processes, the inkjet transfers and some of these transfers aren't quite as durable and washable as some of the other techniques that we've talked about. Now, a solvent transfer, for example, very durable. Vinyls, very durable. Laser transfers are surprisingly durable, but not quite like a direct garment or a screen print, and nothing's as durable as sublimation that's there permanently. So there's your disadvantages of this process. What do I need? So we've got multiple different things here that we've got to look at, but it all revolves around the heat press. And I think Terry and I have spent plenty of time here kind of talking about the soapbox effect of what you need in a heat press. But you do need a good heat press. If I'm doing something like these heat transfers where there could be multiple different times and temperatures that I need to be adhering this stuff. Having a heat press like a Fusion is great because it does allow you to program in those things, so you don't have to kind of go figure it out each time. You can just pull it up and say, hey, I want to do this, boom, away you go. Several presses on the market out there that have that kind of programmable piece to it, so worth the extra money there. If I am going to do any vinyl, whether that's solvent vinyl or just regular CAD cut vinyl, I do need a vinyl cutter. I suggest getting a vinyl cutter that's got an optical eye in it, so you can do print and cut. You never can tell when, even if you're just doing regular CAD cut vinyl, there might be that opportunity where you need to cut something that's been printed somewhere else. So get an optical eye. If you are going to get into solvent printing, you do need a special solvent printer. The smallest one out there that I'm aware of is a 24-inch vinyl printer, and they run in the $5,000 range on up into the kind of VersaCams and some of those out there in the marketplace. So you've got solvent printers, or your other options here. You've got laser printers. I mentioned that there was the white toner printers, or several. They're mainly based on the Oki data engine. The Oki 920 WT has kind of been the long-standing one in the process. Or, like I said, there's plenty of people out there that make a very nice living and do very well just getting regular off-the-shelf inkjet printer, that $100 office printer that's got pigment inks in it, and running heat transfer paper through it, and doing a very good job with that. So those are some of the things I need to get started. How much do I need to spend? And this is going to even vary. So far I've been very elusive in sublimation. I give you a huge range, and I'm going to give it even bigger range here. Honestly, I can get into doing heat transfer vinyl by buying a $200 Cameo or Cricut type cutter, and I can have a heat press or even use a home iron. So we've got $200, but really you probably want to be budgeting about $1,100 to $1,500. You get a $750 real low end but still good quality heat press, and then you've got your vinyl card and stuff like that. So let me just break these down into more of the pieces as opposed to giving you a range of an all-over investment. So your heat presses, like I said, $750, $2,000, somewhere in that range to have a good one. Your vinyl cutters, again, like I said, you could get into just a kind of a Cricut or Cameo hobby type cutter for about $200, $250, on up into a real good 24-inch vinyl cutter that's got an optical sensor and things like that in that $2,000 range. If you are looking at solvent printers, like I mentioned, your range there is going to be about $5,000 on the low end, maybe a little bit more once you get some software and maybe a stand and things like that, on up into the $30,000 range for the bigger ones, where you can also do signs and banners and things like that. So there's your range there. Talked about the inkjet printers, $100 off the shelf, maybe a $600 printer that will allow you to do a bigger size, a 13-inch wide size, something like that. So there's your range. And then finally, your laser printers. If you're looking for something that's got white toner in it, you've got a couple of different options out there, ranging anywhere from about $3,500 on up to about $7,500. So there's your ranges. You could potentially spend about $40,000 if you really wanted to go big into this, but typically folks that are going to be focused on heat transfer are going to spend about $5,000 to $10,000 on their full setup and having, printing and cutting capabilities. So there's heat transfer, Terry. Um,
Uh,
I kind of feel like I won. I feel like the champion, kind of running around waiting for the decision to be made here, arms
yeah,
in the air.
I'm with you, Aaron. I feel like it's a decision. I'm looking at the judges, and I know the guy in the middle looks like he's split. So I don't know.
Well, all right. Well, since there is not a clear winner here, I think we've got to call it what it is here. The obviously, like I said, we wanted to have some fun here, but you really need to understand at the very minimum all of these processes and figure out how they all work together. Um, you no longer in today's world can you say, "Hey, I'm a screen printer" or "I'm a sublimator." You're a decorator. You're a personalizer. You add value to a product. How you get there is going to be determined by your customer, not by you. So you do need to make sure, like I said, at least you understand and have access to these tools. Some things we didn't even talk about today, where you can decorate different things from embroidery. Our good friend Andrea Bomarito with ZSK can tell you everything you need to know about embroidery. All sorts of folks that can help you with that. There's tons of good information there. Eric Campbell from Black Duck, been on our show many times, and he's probably cringing about the fact that we didn't talk about embroidery yet. Laser engraving, you're probably not going to decorate a lot of garments that way, but you're going to decorate products with it, and your customer's going to come to you and look for something, maybe make a stencil or something along those lines. So, and then I alluded to a little bit, rhinestones. I thought for sure when rhinestones really kind of came into vogue, I don't know, what's it been, 6, 7, 8 years ago now, Terry, maybe even 10?
Something like that. It's six years longer than I thought they would last.
Exactly. I felt the same way. I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's going to be a fad. Rhinestones are bigger than they've ever been right now. Ask the girls
Absolutely.
over at TRW, the rhinestone world, about rhinestones. I mean, they've covered everything from a Keurig machine to vinyl cutters to everything in rhinestones. So good stuff there. So yeah, tell us a little bit, Terry, about your thoughts on what all these pieces mean together.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Aaron, because when I got in the industry, many, many years ago, I was a screen printer, and down the block was an embroiderer, and those days are gone. We either do multiple things in our shops, or we partner with folks who are experts in that, and I might do their direct to garment work, and they might do sublimation work for me, and more and more of these partnerships are happening out there in the industry, and your customer is more sophisticated, and they know that there are lots of different items that are available to be decorated, and unless you want to send them to a competitor who does more things, you need to offer these all these different techniques and all these different products. And again, you don't have to do it in house, but you do need to do it. And for everybody who's watching us on YouTube, there's a screen that says there are lots of decorators, but there just aren't very many good decorators. And that's the bottom line with all of this. It's all the things that we talked about today, fairly inexpensive business to get in, which means that a lot of people get in, but they never get very good at what they're doing. So make sure, and our regular listeners know this, we preach about education, but become really good at whatever niche in this market you choose to be involved in, and you're going to be successful.
Like you said, the great part about our industry is that there is not a huge investment to get involved in these things, and you can start your own business, and that's the beauty of it. And that's why we continue, after the years that I've been involved and the more years you've been involved, we continue to be excited about it day in and day out. But at the same time, that also means that your neighbor down the street can do the same thing. There's not a lot of limitations to getting into this, and I cringe all the time reading some of the forums and listening to some people about how they go about doing business, and then they're out there claiming to be a decorator, claiming to be a sublimator, claiming to be a screen printer, and they're giving the rest of us a bad name. So those of us that are good decorators need to make sure that we're out there and we understand all the different pieces and parts. I don't expect people to go out there and um, invest in all four of these different decorating techniques today. But I do expect them to go out there and understand it, make relationships with folks, and one of the things I'm working with now is a guy that is a sublimator, and they're kind of exclusive to that as far as a lot of what they do. But that doesn't mean when somebody comes to pick the gift and says, "Hey, I need some embroidery shirts," that we go, "Well, we don't do that." What happens there is we talk them through it. We have partners that we work with. I reached out to Terry the other day and said, "Terry, I need some direct-to-garment partner that I can send some people to or work with." Um, so so be an expert in the industry as well as the niche is kind of my last bit of the soapbox here, Terry.
Excellent point. Excellent point here.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.